right, hello everyone. It is September 18th, and no, it's Tuesday, September 18th. We are here in the home stretch of week 4 of the entire month, and we have a few new things to talk about. We have your submissions from the chiptune assignment. And it looks like I have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 to check out. Oh, goodness. That's off. And then we have the new assignments for week 4. So week 4 here is a basically summarizing and finishing out everything for the month. We will be talking about resources to help people get involved in the industry beyond the month. One of the big purposes of the class is to introduce people to this side of the industry, to show them the type of work when working on music for a game, and hopefully pique folks' interest into wanting to learn more and get involved in the industry. And so our presentation or archive that will be posted up for Thursday discusses a lot of that. And actually you can get access to all the links and resources currently on FSO in the PDF for your the PDF available for week 4. And we will be discussing the final round of assignments. You will be creating a video capture of your music and sound effects working in the game, and then posting up and doing a final project delivery, which is the main assignment for the week. So there will be discussion of those aspects. But first, let's go ahead and take a listen to the chiptune submissions that we have here. So, like I said, I have 8 here, and we'll start with these down here because this is named a little bit differently. So I will load up the MP3 and the screenshot. And then we'll take a listen to those. I often like to screenshot. Hello. I often like to kind of have a discussion of what sort of game this might be from. So as we're listening to it, if it kind of inspires you into a particular type of game, always interesting to see what type of stuff it kind of invokes. Come on. Shrink down. There we go. That should work. So, the main elements of this composition. Clicking and dragging. Wow, okay. Clicking. Ooh, there we go. Oh, it's going to be an interesting time of this. Okay. So, it's still doing stuff. So the main elements that we are listening for in this composition, you were restricted to the original sound banks and the original sounds of the Nintendo Entertainment System. This includes each track had a EXS24 sound bank available on it, and that had original waveforms sampled from the Nintendo and the Famicom system. So you were limited to that sound palette. You were only limited to 4 simultaneous voices. You were able to use chords and polyphony, so that element of it was straightforward. Then you could have more than 4 voices playing. You could have more than 4 tracks, more than 4 voices, but only 4 of them playing at any one time. So those were some of the limitations. It did not have to loop. It was not interactive. Elements that work very well are a faster pace or a faster tempo, more kind of staccato composition, because the sounds are so basic and very kind of even and not very detailed or interesting over a long period of time. Sustaining too long might create some less than exciting movement through the piece. And so strong pacing, lots of development through a melodic idea and chord progressions and rhythm all work very, very well for this type of composition. So those are the types of things that we will be checking out. Let's go ahead and start listening to the first one here. Right, excellent. So, how about you guys? What type of game does that make you think of overall? Let me go through and sort of take a listen to the different sections here. All right, so I like the harmonic development. It reminds me of this game called Buster Brothers. Is that like a takeoff of Mario Brothers because they bust blocks or something? Yeah, I feel that strong melodic development, strong harmonic development, good changes in the rhythm. I think from the beginning, and it might have been that initial tone, that the lead lines sounded pretty distant or far off. So I hear a lot of the chords, da, 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 and the drums, but the lead line sounds far off. Now this one feels a bit closer. Maybe it's just the kind of more of the tone. The other one had more reverb. Maybe this one just feels more up front. But there's good changes from one to the next. It's where you pop bubbles that fall with various tools in a variety of lands. I also like the little sort of major modulations that you have every once in a while. Let's see. I think here, maybe? No. Where did it happen? Right there. That kind of major resolution. So I'm thinking that this is maybe not like it feels a little bit of action, but it doesn't feel dangerous overall. So maybe it's like running and jumping and like a platform kind of game, but it's not too like evil or dangerous. Here in the chat, Gregory, there were a few things I was uncertain of the project. I couldn't define whether EQ and compression existed. Well, you do have it on each channel, so you were given the different processors on each channel, and these are the elements that I mean, granted, they're much more modern processing, but you could kind of fake some compression effects by the fact that it was just had volume control over each individual note. You certainly didn't have a 4 or 8 band EQ, but you could pull off basic filter stuff. You could pull off basic delay effects because it would just repeat a note while reducing the volume. And then, which also allowed for very, very limited reverb effects. So Space Designer certainly is, spoke of reverb, delay, and low pass filter. Yeah. So it is certainly an embellishment on the effects that were possible, but I mean, we don't really have access to ones that are that limited overall. And I don't really teach like the programming techniques of how to create a delay or reverb or do the, I mean, I guess filter sweeps are not all that difficult, but yeah. So the different processes that are over there on each individual channel. All right, very good. Good place to start. Let's do the next one here. Need that one. Turn this one down. All right, here we go. So I enjoy all the changes throughout. It starts kind of light and I would say almost like creepy, like you're going into a cave or a graveyard or something like that. But I would speak to the idea of the difference between a demo track and something that is used actually in the game. If this, they have very distinct sections, right? So you have this part that is very, very slow and has the kind of tremolo effect on it. Then it gets into this kind of stuff with the lead line. Then the drums come in. Then they take off, and it becomes much more quicker and more active. Then it kind of calms down a little bit, and then eventually goes back to those pads from the beginning. That might make sense in the context of a game, meaning that you would have very distinct sections. As a demo track, however, you should hit them with the best part of it from the top. It's like your thesis statement when you're writing a paper or something. This is what the song is going to be like. It got exciting about 37 seconds into it. So if somebody was just clicking through all of these, listening, like, I can tell you the way I listen, and probably a lot of folks listen to something on SoundCloud, is they'll go like this, and then they'll go like this, and go like this. And we're like, okay, cool, next one. They might not even get to the middle section of your music. So this says to me more like song form. Like, here's an intro, it builds up, you got verse 1, then it goes in chorus, and then it breaks back down, and then you have an outro. So instead, you want it to sound like it's changing levels. You mean like game levels or volume levels? I mean, basically what I'm saying is you should start here. You should start, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a cool idea to have something that mimics action and danger and stealth and battle and winning and losing, almost like you're telling the story directly from the music. And so I would start the piece here, and then at some point drop back to like this kind of or like this kind of stuff, and then drop down to this kind of stuff, and then build it back up for like the culmination, and then like that. Smack them over the face in the first 5 seconds with amazing, the coolest part of it, because that's what they want to hear. It's kind of like you watch movie trailers now, and you watch especially YouTube trailers, because they know of the skip audio or the skip video on YouTube, that you can't do it in the first 5 seconds. They'll just like hit you with all this amazing stuff, and it'll be like bam, 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 Marvel movie, and then they go, and then they start it. So you should not, just because of that, but for a demo track, you want to be like, smack them across the face and be like, look how awesome I am, and then I'm going to take it back so you want some more, and then I'm going to hit you across the face again because it's so awesome. So that kind of thing. Don't say, hey, 7 seconds from now, it's going to be totally awesome. Just wait. Keep waiting. Almost time now. And here it goes, right? So definitely work on the kind of the format of that. Now, that doesn't make sense at all when it comes to the game. Like, in the game, it might make more sense to do it this way. But then you have something to follow, and it rises and falls according to whatever's happening on the screen. And that's for library demos. That is for trailers. I mean, anything where you want to grab somebody's attention, hit them really strong at the beginning, and then take it away and then give it back to them. All right. Yeah. Otherwise, I think what you're doing through all that stuff is very, very good. I like all the movement through here. This works very, very well. The lead lines work well, and the different tones kind of play off of each other. there's variation throughout. So that always keeps everybody's interest. Every 4 bars, every 8 bars, every musical phrase, you should be like building it up and then dropping it down and hitting them again, and then knock them down, pick them back up, hit them again, knock them down, pick them back up, and just kind of repeat that sort of idea over and over again. All right, very cool. Screenshot. Next one. All right, let's try it again. Cool. I would add an ending. Don't just kind of stop it there. Boom. Just hit a last note or something. Great energy all the way through. I sort of imagine a futuristic motorcycle game, almost like the Tron light cycle walls thing going on. So first thing I notice is bars 9 through 17 are the same as 1 through 9, and 25 through 33 are the same as 17 through 25, which I think they're identical. So that's just change it up in the second repeat of whatever you're doing, or change it up more. I like all of the sort of arpeggio runs. All those kind of, that works very well for this style of music. And then I was thinking, I wanted you to take off, like kind of double time, which you do. Oh my goodness, excuse me. But have a snare in there. I just lost it. Boom, ta, boom, ta, boom, ta, boom, ta, boom, ta. You have a kick in there. The other thing that I heard in the first part was the bass and... Well, I guess these are doing different things. The bass doesn't seem like you could have something that was either more sustained through there or kind of fills in the gaps. It's not... it's kind of hard to notice overall. I think it's almost feels like it's hitting with the kicks. It's really, really low. Oh, you can get that sound to change. Interesting. Yeah, so it's a volume thing, and I don't see any level changes. So yeah, that part was a little much. Then when it gets into here, there doesn't feel like... Oops, I'm fast forwarding everyone. There you can hear it more because it's moving around, but there's all 3 of those lines look like, no, they're not doing the exact same thing, but they're pretty close. So to have a little bit of variation between those lines, add a snare through there, and then I think the third part works out pretty well. Oops. Oh yeah, the only little thing here was the when that line comes in, it kind of repeats. It's the same note, or it's kind of alternating. That is cool in the beginning. It just kind of gets a little long, so to have it do something else, like have it change something in the second, I guess the second 2 bars of that, right? Let me just follow along with the screenshot. It goes up. So here, and then it keeps going. It changes. So maybe it's just too loud, or just have it change up a little bit in the second half of that. So, yeah. You guys hearing any other types of games, or had intention for it to sound like something? A lot of people will have like, oh, kind of thought it sounded like this sort of thing, and was kind of writing in that direction. So, but yeah, that works out very well. Right. Next one here. Kind of reminds me of a Sonic game. Yeah, the speed of it, when it really speeds up, it's like you hit one of those moving walkways or whatever, the speed boosts, and you go take off. It launched iTunes. That's not what I wanted to do. Wish I could banish iTunes. Okay. iTunes. Not what I want right now. QuickTime. It's so much better. Every time you want to play a file. Hey, would you like to buy the latest album and listen to it on Apple Music? No, I would just like to play a piece of music that I created, please. Oh, no. Here's a new one we could sell you. All right. Here we go. Let's try that again. Yay. Yay for color coding also. Awesome. Yeah, looks like only 4 things are playing at any one time. Alright. So I like these kind of sweeps up and down. pitch ramps up there. So some of those are really kind of characteristic of this type of this type of music. The kind of arpeggiated runs, parallel fifths, parallel thirds, octaves, all of those work very well for these types of sounds and kind of invoke those sorts of styles and inspiration from these types of games. So there was only in this section, the only real issue that I might have with it, I mean, I would say maybe I really like this part where it kind of picks up. Would be a question of whether you wanted to start with that, although there's enough activity in the first part that it's not like there's not too much going on in the first part. But then once we got over here, there were some little dissonant phrases. This. Wait, not that. That right there. Then it's fine. That one feels better, but this again. And I don't know if it's the wobbly pitch of the other synth, which also kind of feels like it phases in and out of tune. Excuse me. But there's a couple of those phrases where the notes just feel wrong. That. So watch out for that. And then it ends strongly. It just kind of has an ending to it. So yeah, those are the main things. I like the changes overall. I like the arpeggios. There's changes to the drums. There's changes to the pacing of the music. So yeah, good stuff overall. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just seeing. It seems like there's only 4 at any one time. So good stuff. Oh, hold on. Oops. No, I just did it again. Launched iTunes. I can't figure out a way to not make double clicking on an MP3 or a WAV file send it to iTunes. I don't think you can change the association. Last thing I wanted to think was what type of game. That little part makes me think of an engine revving up. So it seems like either another racing game or maybe like a flying game. Ooh, that'd be kind of cool where you're like lifting off right here. It's the kind of idea where it turns into almost sound effect kind of thing. So yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm thinking of. All right. Next one. Bring up that screenshot. Mario racing games, particularly with the ghosts. Yeah, like a Boo Castle kind of vibe. That the reverb definitely helps that idea. Oh goodness, what makes you think that? Oh, there we go. That's better. All right. No iTunes. Very good. Sorry, I have to listen to this part. There's one phrase reminds me of some melodic idea, a melody that I can't recognize or recall right now. It goes da 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 da. Man, da 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 da. Is it kind of like dun 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 dun. Yeah, it's almost got a Mario. Oh, maybe it's the dun 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 dun. Is that what it is? It's almost there. It's not there, but it sort of gives me that vibe, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Cool. All right. So the main thing that I'm hearing is some of these phrases feel like are you doing, is it mostly a single interval, or are you doing like chords? Every once in a while it feels like two notes as intervals. Yeah, as thirds, but are they stacked thirds? Or like that sounds like two lines going together. I mean, there's chords, but then it's like this. Where is it? That stuff, right? Okay, so this goes, this set feels clear, like clearly outlined right here. Then it gets kind of jumbled. Like there's some extra notes. Maybe it's just quantization, but it goes like, and then there feels like there's too many notes in that one little chord right there. It's really kind of a small point overall, but it's like it goes back and forth between feeling more clear and just some of those chords. Then it goes back. Ooh, even that, when you start doing it with the lead part two, gets even more cluttered. So again, it's a small point overall, but yeah, I would just watch out for those little sections. Other than that, I really like it. Almost gives me like a carnival vibe. I don't know. I think it's the bop, 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 bop. But all the stuff, there's good changes in here. It starts out strong. Then you get to this. Yeah, and so there's some good dynamic changes in there overall. Excellent. How do we look? Yep, you can see all the movement there. Mario, even called Mario. That was one of the patches. Drums changes. Excellent. All right. Yeah, I think that's what I'm hearing. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. It's phrased differently, but yeah. Cool. Yeah, next. All right, let's try this one. Whoa, what is that? It was at the very end. Yeah, there's something like some sort of artifact or something. It feels like at the very end. First thing I hear is metronome. As soon as we started it up, here, click, 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 and when all the stuff, like every once in a while, it dies out, and you hear the click, clicking through. So always turn off the click, and it's not enabled here. So anyway, that's a big one. Then the rest of it would be that wasn't the metronome. It sounds like the metronome. Yeah, because it's so very different from the rest of the snares, and it's only on the quarter notes. Yeah. Guitar, heart. Oh, it's this one. Anyway, well, I would definitely change that one up because that one really sounds like the metronome. I mean, I hear all the rest of this stuff that's going on, but yeah. So I would switch out that sound, or have it not play just on quarter notes. All the drums, none of the drums sound like that. So anyway, whatever that is, then the metronome. No, sorry, the melody. I hear a lot of harmonic movement, but I don't hear a strong melody. You could build a melody from that very easily, but it mostly because all of the melodic changes happen on the chord changes, or the chord changes are the melody. Like, you should have a strong melody that differs from the chords. Like, it pokes through there every once in a while, but I think a lot of it moves with the chord changes. Right, so I hear an instrument that probably should be the melody, but it changes along with the chords pretty much every single time until it goes doo doo doo, or does those little kind of flourishes. So here, this sounds more like a melodic idea because you don't have all the thick chords going along with it. Then everything comes back in. The other part through this is with the drums and all that. It almost feels distorted in some sort of way. But it's kind of too busy, and between the thickness of all the synths and all the movement of the drums, it kind of gets muddied up. It's also like the robotic nature, having a little bit more velocity on those snare hits. And not having them on the 16th note every single time. Having them kind of vary the rhythm up a little bit. Yeah, and then whatever that little distortion thing is at the end. Yeah, I mean that does feel like Still in the hospital. I hope you're doing all right, Danny. Yeah, you are definitely. That's quite all right. All right. So those are the main things that I am hearing through this one. Pneumonia. Oh, that's all. Wow. Feel better for sure. We got two more here. All right. No, 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 no. I do that every time. Go away, iTunes. What was that? What happened? Oh, my screen just connected. Hold on. Got gremlins in my computer today. Yes. All right, here we go. All right. Good stuff happening all the way throughout. A strong drum and bass pattern. Kind of really good strong groove there. These waveforms are really good at bass because they are so simple. They can really get some kind of solid grooves happening, even with some kind of cheesier drum sounds. There's good changes. One kind of like from one section to the next. You got the strong arpeggios through here. Then you got a good change through here. I almost wanted it to take off kind of a double time feel. Just kind of double up the pace for a little while to help bring up that energy. And then the only thing that I liked, but I don't like it being at the very end, is the kind of little bluesy licks that you do. Everything's been so major throughout. And then you bring in these kind of chromatic tones. These kind of bluesy thirds there. And I wouldn't just have them be a surprise at the very end, because it makes me think you're going to go off into that sort of feel through the next part. So I would either not use them or use them earlier, and just kind of those to create some variation. So every once in a while, you're kind of going up and down in major feel, and it goes to this kind of blues tinge to it. So having the strong melodic and rhythmic changes from one section to the next works out very well. Again, I'm a fan of kind of going to a double time feel at some point to push up the pacing of the music and then return it back down for the end. But great use of the instrumentation and the kind of limitations of it to still get a strong groove going there. And we'll jump back up here, bring up one more screenshot. And we'll do this one here. I'm feeling like a detective game or something like that, where I gotta solve the crime. So the main thing I hear is repetition, just the repetition of these phrases. Just kind of change it up a little bit. Just change up the rhythm. You're still kind of doing the up and down arc of it, but don't make every single one of them. Then you got a good change here. All right, this would be kind of part B. But then you go back to. So, watching out for that repetition, especially on a demo piece like this, where you're showing off all the work that you can do. Just make it exciting and make it change every 4 or 8 bars, and or each phrase of that. Have it change up a bit. You could also do a call and response thing that would work very well. Right, so we could do so that there's a little bit of variation every single time. That's going to keep the listener's interest without any sort of song form or lyrics or anything like that. You're going to need to tell the whole story with the music. And you do very well getting into that middle part, but then it kind of switches back to what it was doing. All right. Good stuff there. What am I doing? There we go. What? Must have closed it. So that is all the submissions that we had for this week. Um, we'll turn it over to the archive now. See, I did it. We'll turn it over to the archive now to have a discussion of the new assignments for week 4, where you will be creating a video representation of your music and sound effects working in the game. Actually, that is something I would definitely want to point out. I didn't have anybody contact me over the weekend where, oh no, everything's crashing and burning, things aren't working at all. So if you have any issues with Wise, please let me know. I did get a message and will respond to that one. Most everything seems to be working. If you do have any issues, go ahead and post it up in the chat. Or contact me throughout this week. We definitely want to finish out everything through this week to make sure we have it all wrapped up for the end of the month. Is Wise supposed to remain at Unity gain? You can mix all of your levels in Wise. So you, with your music, actually with everything, really, music and sound effects, it would be a perfect world if you could just, it would be a perfect world if you could just bring your music and sound effects into Wise and leave all the faders at Unity, and that would be your perfect mix. And if that's the case, then wonderful. But you may need to trim some levels up and down. When I was doing, I wasn't sure if going above 0 is acceptable in a mix. No, you should, just like any audio stuff, you shouldn't go above 0 or else it's clipping. Audio in 2D platformer can get quite loud, especially when you're fighting the big robot. That's a place where I often hear distortion, so watch out for that. Just go through and play through the loudest sections of the game. You can connect Wise and the game in real time and tweak out the levels and hear it while you're playing the game. Or just take notes as you're playing it and say, hey, I probably need to reduce this down a little bit and turn that up. But it shouldn't be completely overloading the main output. There is a question. Generally, it's just a solid mix between music and sound effects. You don't want the music to override the sound effects or the sound effects to override the music. However, you could probably get away with more music if you wanted it to be focused on the demo portion of your music. I just felt some things were too soft to hear without turning the sound positive. Now, if you're talking about an individual fader, then that's perfectly fine. But if you're talking about the meter inside of Wise and it's just like pegged into the red, well, that's not what you want. If you need an individual sound to be louder, then that's perfectly fine. Some things like I often hear sounds that were recorded by a student are not. Oh, this was like a mix board. Yeah. If it's a fader, then you can turn it up. If it's the meter and it's over, like if it's in the red, then you're going to need to turn stuff down. And if you can't hear something, then go ahead and turn down other things so that you can hear that. So some things that I hear, like in 2D platformer, a lot of the sound effects pulled from the library are certainly loud and just fine, but sometimes sounds recorded by students, like their voice or something, won't compete. So you need to make sure that level is strong and you can hear all of the sound effects against the music and everything else. Also in 2D platformer, the gunshot is so constant that it doesn't really need to be all that loud. And if it's really loud and it just is somebody's constantly hitting the mouse button, then it's going to overload and mask everything else in the mix. With with Angry Bots, it's the footsteps and the ricochets. You don't have to do the footsteps and the ricochets, but they're loud effects. So when they put them in, it's everywhere you move, it's like clop, 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 clop. And so it's good to turn those down, and also the bullet ricochets, especially to focus on the sounds that you actually worked on. So was I the only one who was able to find the glitch under the bridge what happened when you went under the bridge. I know Red Hot Chili Peppers sang about it, but I don't think that's what you're talking about. Did you like get below the bridge somehow? I do know people can cheat their way through Angry Bots. I got stuck between the alien and the bridge. Oh, I do know that you can get stuck. Like an alien can just kind of pin you in a corner, and you can't get past them until eventually. It was like a nonstop kill fest. So, no, I think if anything weird like that happens, then you just start it over again. But I've known some weird things to happen, like people to able to jump like ridiculously high because they bounced off of something. And in Angry Bots, I know that somebody's figured out that you can like stand up and climb your way up on the walls and then walk on top of the walls through the entire map till the very end and beat it in like, I think the record is like 45 seconds or something like that. We get a few people jumped and disappeared. I've done that in 2D platformer before, where you jump, especially if you bounce off something, you can rocket you off to the side or something. So yes, there's all that sort of fun stuff, and that's what a game tester does, is find all those things and then points it out to the game team and says, hey, none of this stuff works, or this is not working as expected. So, all right. That should get you going in Wise with the mix. So we're going to turn it over to the archive now, which will discuss your last round of assignments. You will be uploading your video. You will do a video capture this week. You will upload it to YouTube, and then you will submit it to me. Wasn't sure how to set up the sound for QuickTime. The slide presentation should go through all those steps, but you are going to need to use an external program called Loopback. And when you install Loopback and you go to QuickTime, so you'll set up Loopback to monitor 2D platformer, and then when you go to QuickTime, when you go to, come on QuickTime, you can do it. I believe in you. There you go. When you go, when you install Loopback and you run it, and you hit this little down arrow, Loopback shows up as an actual option. So Loopback is what you're using. Yes. Loopback is going to be the program that will take your audio from the game into QuickTime. Because Apple doesn't give you that functionality automatically, so that you don't, of course, pirate all sorts of different things. They wouldn't want to give you the ability to do that. But that's not the case. This is our own music in our own game with our own sound effects. So Loopback will provide that functionality. The free version will do it for you. The only limitation is after 15 minutes, it kind of blasts white noise. But your videos are only 1 minute to 2 minutes long, so it should be just fine. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap it up here. We'll send it over to the archive, and I'll stick around for a few minutes to answer any other questions. Other than that, have a good rest of your day, and I will see you again on Thursday. Thanks. All right, so we have our submissions there. Like I said, the focus of this week is, your final week is to take the information and the projects that you've worked on and put them in the best light to show them off beyond the class and beyond your time at Full Sail, and be able to show the work off that you've done and completed hopefully to future employers and future clients and whatnot. So as you have been progressing through all of your classes, you certainly should be gathering together as much of your classwork and materials and projects that you've been working on and put it together into a strong demo reel to show that off. And that includes these game projects. They are well and good as grades and as projects for a class, but their real intention is to give you a vehicle to show off your music and to show off your work and be able to demonstrate that off out there as you get started in the industry. So we are going to talk about the best way of showing off your music that is intended to play back in the game is to actually have somebody play the game. The best way of demonstrating your music for a game is to actually demo that game. So you have the game projects, you have the game applications, and you can distribute those as you wish. They are yours. They are free for you, free for educational purposes, free for demo purposes. The only thing is you just you would indicate that you did all of the music and sound, but you don't claim that you created the game. But they are for you to put on a website, put in Dropbox, and send it around to future clients or future employers, and to show off your work. However, there are some limitations, mostly like technical limitations, with demonstrating your game. The first one is it's a Mac game, and so whoever wants to play the game needs to have a Mac computer in order to play it. The games can be put in or made as PC games, but that takes a lot of extra understanding and programming to convert the projects. I mean, it is possible, but mostly you have a Mac application. And so somebody has to have a Mac, and maybe whoever you're sending this off to has a computer and they can check it out. They have to have a computer powerful enough to play the games. That isn't as much of an issue as it used to be, as people's computers have progressively gotten better over the years and have started with better computers. We really don't have much of an issue running these projects. So then you have another issue of very smart people on the internet won't probably just download some random application and run it on their computer. You would be very smart not to just download random zip files and open them up and play them on your computer. Now, of course, that's not the case with these applications, and they aren't. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them, but just a random link on a website, you're not going to get tons of people just saying, okay, sure, I'm just going to download this unknown application and run it. So you need to have some way of showing off your work. You need to have some way of people being able to see your music working in a game. You could just take like one of your main loop files and put it up on SoundCloud and say, hey, here's a loop that I wrote for a game. And I promise it works in the game. So the best way of showing off your music working in the game is actually having the game to show off. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a video capture of you playing the game with your music and sound effects working. So by this point in the month, you have composed the music for both of these projects, created all the sound effects. We had an opportunity for peer review, and you also got feedback for your submission. You have the opportunity to do any revisions or changes to that composition or those sound effects. Last week you used Wise and used an audio middleware tool to connect your music and your sound effects working in the game. You got it working in the game, you tested it out, you played the game, and you listened to your sound effects and your music, and more than likely found some issues with it. I mean, I guess you could knock it out of the park first time every single time, but most of the time you get it in the game and there's yeah, I don't know, 75, 80% of it's all right, but there's another 20% there that I need to tweak and to change. So you go back to your sounds and you tweak your sounds a little bit. You go back to your music and you mix your files and you bounce everything out again. And you test it, put it back in the game, test it out. And that is a very constant kind of revision or iteration cycle where you compose something, you say, I think this is going to work. You put it in the game, go, man, that kind of works, but I need to do this. Then you go back and you fix it, you put it back in the game, you test it out, and you go around and around. So once you get everything set up in the game, then now you're ready to do this final video capture. It basically proves the process that you have created all the music and sound effects, put it in the game, tested it out, and have something to show for it. So you will be using QuickTime and a program called Loopback in order to capture the video on the screen or the game on the screen. All right, so let me talk about how you will set this up and how this will actually work. So actually I can just do this real quick. When you go on FSO, here's week 4. Here's your final game captures assignment. Notice that it is 0 weighted. That doesn't mean that you don't have to do it. It's just not turned in here. You are going to turn it down here in the final project delivery. So don't just ignore the assignment because it is 0 weighted. But it provides you with all the material. It says you will submit this YouTube link in a separate assignment on FSO. Final game capture. So you'll get a PDF here, and you'll get a PDF here. And the first one just gives you mostly just an overview and delivery instructions. Just kind of a real quick summary of how it all works and how to deliver everything here. But there's a separate PDF that goes slide by slide and goes into a lot more detail. So let me just take a look at this here. You will use QuickTime, which is already installed on your computer, and a program called Loopback in order to capture audio inside of your computer. Loopback is a free application. You can just go to the link here. Well, it's not a free application. It costs $99, but you don't need the $99 version. I don't know, unless you completely love the application and you want to support these people, but really you just need the free download for our purposes. The limitation with the free download is that it lasts for 15 minutes, and you only need to record for a minute or two. So if for some reason the 15 minutes runs out, then you just shut down the program and open it back up, and you got another 15 minutes. But after a while, it starts blasting white noise at you, so make sure if you hear that, that's what's going on there. So you just download the Loopback, and what it is it is a virtual audio cable application for your computer. Meaning, you are going to record the video using QuickTime. You've probably used QuickTime at some point. This is actually QuickTime down here for all my videos. QuickTime is just capture the video from your webcam, or actually in this instance it's going to capture the actual screen, but QuickTime doesn't allow you to do audio from inside of your computer. Actually, here's a better view of it. This is what it looks like when you open up and do the screen recording, and when you hit this down arrow, it doesn't allow you to record from inside of your own computer because of all sorts of nefarious copyright reasons. They don't want you recording everything that's ever been played through your entire computer, but for our purposes, it's your music. You want to record it, so you need to have a way of actually doing that. That's where Loopback comes in. And when you download Loopback and you run it, it looks like It looks like this. Here. And it says, hey, click here to create a new virtual device. And when you create a new virtual device, it's actually creating like an audio interface inside of your computer. Just like you take a cable and you go a cable out of a guitar into an amp, or just a cable out of one thing into another. This takes a cable, a virtual cable, and goes out of your game into QuickTime. If I look at my audio MIDI setup now, it actually adds an extra interface to run everything through. And when you do that and you go back to QuickTime, oh my goodness. Hello, computer. There it goes. When you come back here and look in here, you should now have a loopback audio interface. Once you do all of that, the other thing you need to do is come in here and you need to tell it to actually go what application you want to record. And you want it to point to 2D Platformer or Angry Bots, whichever one you're recording. Right here. And when you do that, it shows up here. You will be able to, I don't want to do this right now, but you want to be able to listen through your speakers. You uncheck the mute audio sources so that you can hear everything. And then you go run the game, and you should be able to meter it. Once you play the game, you should see some meters here inside of the screen recording, and you know at that point that it's working. When you get this set up, you might hear it doubled up, like it might monitor back twice. Depends on how you have your audio set up, but it either can be this, it could be could be monitoring through QuickTime, which could be this fader. It could be this setting, monitor through audio through whatever your output is. So double check those just to make sure. The other thing is, if you hear it doubled, it doesn't actually capture doubled. So you can just hit record anyway. You'll monitor it doubled, and then you'll listen. The video will be fine. So just a couple of pointers there. So you'll install Loopback. You'll set up for the screen recording. Like I said, you'll create a new virtual device. You'll select the game application that you want to run. You check the checkboxes. You open up QuickTime. You set up a new screen recording. I showed you this where you click the little arrow and you want to set up to Loopback so that you can record inside of QuickTime. At that point, you should see meters. And you can hit record. Depends on if you have like two screens set up. If you're just recording on your one screen, you can either click and drag just a portion of your screen if it's in a window, or you can just click and it will record the entire screen. Depends on how you have it set up. The only thing to watch out for is most of everybody's computers now have Retina displays, and that's like a really super high resolution. And if you do the entire full screen, it might just slow everything down trying to capture all that stuff. It just might be something to watch out for. I got a couple more slides on that. So the best thing to do is run it in a window and just kind of highlight over the window so that it only captures. You don't capture all of your messy desktop and all this extra stuff. You just capture exactly what you want. So it starts the screen capture. You can run like I said, you can run it in a window. If you click this little checkbox, it says it's in a window. If you unclick this checkbox, it says it's not in a window. More than likely, you've played the game up to this point. You probably know how best it is to run. You've probably already set all this stuff, if you even had to mess with it at all. So more than likely, it's just fine. But if things start acting screwy while trying to do the recording, some of these settings can help. So you hit record when you're ready to go, and you start recording and demonstrating the game. The actual content of the video, I leave that very much up to you. It's your demo video. It's what you want to show off and how you want to show it off. What I'm most concerned with, most focused on, is the process. The fact that you have the game, you have the music and sound effects working in the game. That's a huge portion of the project that you're now demonstrating. And you also have QuickTime, and you've got Loopback or something installed. I guess I should also point out, if you already have and you use something like Soundflower or Audio Hijack, those things are identical to Loopback, or at least in our function, for what we need. And so you can use those pieces of software, as long as it doesn't watermark it or do anything weird with the video or audio. If you already have it set up in a certain way, you can use that. But once you've captured this video, you show that you have all of the sound effects and music working in the game, and you can do a video capture. You have the game playing back. You're using QuickTime and something like Loopback to capture the audio. And so if later on you have a different project or different sounds, you want to redo this one, you can always just create new video captures to show the work that you've done. Demonstrate all the music and sound design. The other thing to point out is I do not count every single sound effect, meaning that I don't like track that you have triggered every single sound effect in every piece of music, because I know that a lot of it, or some of it, is left up to chance. You can't always trigger every single music file because it's random. So you're going to get like 3 intros, 3 main loops, and only 2 of the endings will play within about 2 minutes long. We suggest that the videos be around 1 minute to 2 minutes long, which is right here. Oops. Right. Oh, there it is. Video capture should be no longer than 2 minutes. So again, the content is up to you. How you demonstrate it is up to you. I would suggest a big one is don't play the game like you're trying to win the game. Don't just do the video capture just to show off how good you are at playing the game. It's about showing off all of the sounds. One common thing that I'll see especially with 2D platformer, is I'll hear the intro and then they'll start playing the game, and for like a minute or two I'll just see them play the game, and they'll never die, or they'll just die once at the end and stop the video, and that means I only saw 1 intro and 1 ending. You created 4 other files and never showed anybody. So die a couple of times, jump off the edge, trigger some of those ending cues, try to trigger as many of the sound effects as possible, and just kind of, show it off in its best light overall. Then you stop the screen recording. You save the screen recording, name it your last name, your first name, GCP Week4 2D platformer, whatever, or Angry Bots. Do not name it last name, first name. Your name isn't last name, first name. You have a last name. You have a first name. Please, it happens every month. Somebody at some point names something last name, first name. So just watch out for that. And then please, please, please check your screen recording. Watch the video after it's done. This happens, I mean, most people do this, no problem, but for some reason, I will always, every month, I'll get a series of videos that either the audio is just missing, or they used the internal microphone on their computer. It played out of their computer speakers and then back into the internal microphone. And if it didn't feed back, then it sounds horrible. It just sounds really thin, and you hear them in the background, like breathing and clicking on their keyboard, and it's really kind of weird. And you hear their dog barking in the background and their family running around or whatever it is. So just watch out for that. Double check the video. Make sure it has the correct content of it. It has the correct thing that you captured. The other thing is don't hit record and record it for 2 minutes the first time, because there's no telling if you got it right the first time. So just hit record for a few seconds, and then stop it and check the recording and make sure you're actually capturing the thing you think you're recording. So that so you don't have to do it over and over again and waste any time. A couple optional tips. Clear off the desktop. If you are capturing any aspect of the desktop, it's probably best to just make it as clear as possible. I know a lot of folks, we have audio directors and people in different game teams come and talk to our Full Sail student, or come talk to our students, and they'll say often, if we see screenshots or things and it just looks like you have a messy desktop and you posted up a video and it just looks like things are all over the place, it's not probably going to help your cause overall, because a lot of people don't want to work with that. So you can either do a full screen or a high resolution recording. You can do a low resolution recording. If more than likely the video capture is just going to work just fine. Every once in a while, depending on people's computers and whatever they're running or how they have it set up, this might start making your computer chug a little bit, because you got to play the game and do a video capture at the same time. If that is the case, then as long as the audio doesn't stutter or doesn't drop out, if the video kind of gets slow or choppy, that's fine. For the purposes of the video, for the grade and for the assignment, that's fine. Obviously, you want to make as a high quality video as possible. I wouldn't really even consider just focusing on the fact that it's an assignment. Create a proper and a demo video that you can use beyond the class. So if need be, try shrinking down the resolution of the game. Maybe even try shrinking down the resolution of your monitor and your screen. That might help create smoother videos overall. Once you have done the video for both Angry Bots and 2D Platformer, you're going to post them up on YouTube. Just put them up there. You can put it just so that I can view it. You don't have to make it completely public, but don't make it private. Make sure that you post it up and you can share the link and have everybody reference it. So the assignment of the video capture is really getting everything set up. Once it's working, then it's just playing the game and just showing off how your music and sound effects sound in the game. All right, so that is your final video capture. And to then show it off, or then to kind of deliver the final version of everything back here on FSO. The kind of big assignment for this week is your final project delivery. And this is going to be basically, it's a 10-question test, but it's not like a test that you study for because you have all the answers. It's just really a summary of your composition. So it's broken down into two halves. 5 of the questions are for 2D Platformer, 5 of the questions for Angry Bots. They're very similar to each other. The first one is 2D Platformer video capture. Provide the YouTube link to your 2D Platformer game capture video. So you just did the video capture, you uploaded it to YouTube, now post the YouTube link here. Make sure that it works. You can always go into incognito mode to check links. That's how I do a lot of my stuff with YouTube and Google, since I have like a personal login for YouTube and Google, but whenever I want to do any Full Sail stuff, you just go into incognito mode and it forgets who you are, and then you can log in as whatever you want. So if you just double check all the links that you're going to send me, make sure that they work. You can use incognito mode to do that, or send them to somebody else, and then that's how I will be able to check it also. So give me a YouTube link. This is actually quite important. A missing YouTube link or a missing audio track in a video renders the submission ungradable. If I can't hear it, if I can't hear your music and your sound effects, or the video doesn't work, or the link doesn't work, I can't grade the rest of the assignment. So make sure the video is there and working. Then you'll send me a screenshot of your DAW session. You will, this is the 2D platformer instrumentation. List the instruments that you used in the intros, main loop, and ending cues. Name any synths or sample library sources for all the tracks. So you will tell me what instruments you used. Tell me in the intros, the main loops, and the endings, which synths, which drums. Don't just tell me I used a piano and I used a banjo and an organ and a synthesizer. Tell me which presets, which sample libraries, which synthesizers you used, which presets you used, so that the idea is if somebody else had to recreate this session, they knew what instruments. They could go load up those, assuming that they had the same instrumentation that you did. Somebody could kind of recreate all of this stuff if necessary. Next, 2D platformer transitions. You will take screenshots of your intros, your main loops, and your endings, and then line them up in a particular way. You are going to take your intro 1 and connect it to main loop 2, and then connect it to ending 3. And then take intro 2 and connect it to main loop 3, and then go to ending 1. And then take intro 3 and go to main loop 1, and go to ending 2. I guess I could just read it up here. Basically, it's taking all of your tracks and rearranging them into different orders, taking a screenshot of it, and then answering a few questions, like describe what you listen to each track. How does the music transition from one cue to the next? Describe what you hear. Does the intensity of the music build with the intro cue? Are the same instruments heard from the intros through the main loops and the endings? Are there any hiccups or pops as the music shifts from one music cue to the next? So these are just basic overview. How well did it work? Did it sound as you expected? Just kind of give me insight into the final product. Then you will create a screenshot of your final mix. Give me a peak level and an RMS level. Use the level meter plugin found in Logic, just so I can get an overview of your levels. AngryBots section is very much very similar. AngryBots video capture. Provide the YouTube link for that. Give me a screenshot of your AngryBots session. And list the instrumentation used in your ambient, buzzer action, mech action, and spider action cues. Then you'll take your 4 files, line them all up together, ambient, buzzer action, mech action, spider action, and then basically comment the same way. How did it work? Listen to your cues playing back together. Describe what you hear. How well did the cues play back? Are there any noticeable issues? Do the cues start and end at the same time? Are there any rhythms that clash? Do the melodies or harmonies clash? Just to get an overview of how well the main portion of the composition worked. Give me a summary with a screenshot of your AngryBots mix. So really, it's just kind of like a post-mortem overview, summary, summation of how well everything worked in the final projects. So that is the direction we are headed in this last week. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to stick around here for a few minutes if you have any questions. But again, this is the last week. Let me know if you are having any challenges or anything that you need to discuss in the final part of the week. But we have one more class on Thursday. We can listen to or discuss any or anything that you need, or take a look at your final video. But other than that, let's end it there. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again on Thursday.